All right, so I'm hoping this will work. I'm recording with a bit of a different software. I bought myself a new laptop because I gave my wife my Mac because she needs it for work because her Mac is dead. So I got myself a little Lenovo. So now I'm basically running the same type of system as you guys all the time. Hopefully I won't wind up with the same speed delays I've gotten on the Mac and Parallels. However, the software that I generally record with, which is called OSB, isn't available for Windows. So I had to use something, or sorry, not OSB, ScreenFlow. I'm using OSB. ScreenFlow isn't available for Windows, so I switched over to OSB. Now, that being said, though, I did on the weekend record a video with it, and it seemed to work just fine. In 1 second, I'll grab myself a window here for my tablet. There we go. Just going to go to Blackboard. And this pertains to you guys more than anybody because more than likely we will not complete the course by the end of tonight. And next week is our exam, our final. So you need to watch this video because we are technically pretty far behind. So what I did is I posted a video under lesson videos called Last Lesson, Super Important to Watch. It's about an hour and 45 minutes. It will walk you through doing the create, update, and delete functionality for the parent-child relationship. Okay, so super important to watch that. Hopefully, I don't see why not. We will get to the point at the end of this class where that is your starting point anyways. So we should be able to get everything in. However, I can't for the life of me remember where we ended off last week. So we're going to have to, let's take a look, find out where we ended up. So I'm going to open up WAMP. I can't wander too far away from this computer because I don't have my AirPods set up for recording on it. In fact, to be sure I don't wander too far, I will sit. Other words, I'll wander. I know me well enough. I will sit. All right, just waiting for WAMP to boot up here. There we go, got my little green light. I'm going to go ahead and navigate to the local host / COMP-1006 folder. And where are we? Lesson 5 still. I don't see blogs up here. Am I behind something? Maybe. Did we get to lesson 6? I don't think we did we? No, that's too far. Do you guys have a blog option up here in your menu? Okay, so cool. We're at the same spot. That's good. All right. Now I just need to see whether or not we have what we do have. Did we load in the new database? Okay, cool. So we have a minute.test.com and all that? Nice. That's awesome. Okay, so we have that. We can edit and delete. Awesome. So we're right at the beginning part then of our lesson. So I did move the lesson plans over to a website called scm.education. Did I already mention that? Okay, cool. So if you go there, we're on the Introduction to Web Programming, the top option. And we're going to be working on this class. The class you guys will miss is probably this class here, the bottom one. But there's a whole full lesson and starter files for that, so there shouldn't be a big deal. So we did the new SQL part. So our next step is to create an index view for our posts. Did I talk about the child-parent relationship between posts and comments? No? Okay, let's talk about that. So when we actually start creating, I'm going to zoom in a little bit. When we start creating applications, we're going to find it necessary to create relationships between our data. That's a very common practice when you're working on server-side type applications. So for example, you might have a bookstore with authors, right? And those authors might own books, right? So there'll be the parent table, the books would be the child table. In our particular scenario for our application, we're going to have users, right? They're like the parent, and one user can own many, many posts, right? So our user will essentially not only be a user, but also be an author of posts. However, a user can also be an author of comments. So a user can go to a post, read it, and then post comments on that post, providing they're logged in. So both of those are authenticated operations. However, we're going to funnel it down a little bit that posts can only be written by administrative users. So if they don't have the role of administrator, they can't write a post. Okay? So the comments, however, can be written by anybody as long as they're authenticated. So there is a bit of a limit, right? They have to at least be authenticated in order to write a post. Posts own many comments, right? So one post will have many, many comments. So again, we have that parent-child relationship. In fact, we have that parent-child relationship 3 times. One user, many posts. One user, many comments. One post, many comments, right? So 3 times we have a parent-child relationship. In our database, we set up foreign key constraints. The foreign key constraints basically stop things like orphaned data. And what orphaned data is where we remove the parent and there's a bunch of children still kicking around, but there's no connection to anything of substance. There's no parent connection anymore. So it's just data sitting in our database that has no fidelity, it has no connection to anything. So we want to avoid that. So what we do is we set up these things called constraints. And what the constraints do is they stop you from deleting the parent before you removed the children. Now, I have a concern that when we installed our database, did we do it last week? Like, we didn't install the database before last week, right? The new one? We did it last week. I hope so. Because the one we did last week, if we did it last week, it has cascades on it, and that's an important step. Did I talk about cascades? Awesome. Okay, so the cascades help us with the foreign key constraint because what they do, when we delete a user, for example, the cascade in the database will actually go find all the children associated with the user. It will also find any children associated with those children. So it will remove them from the furthest point up till the point where we get to the user and then remove the user. The benefits of doing it that way with using cascades in PHP or in MySQL versus using PHP to go find and kill and find and kill is that it's much faster. MySQL can do it like within a millisecond versus, well, probably about 500 milliseconds versus PHP, which would wind up being seconds and we'd be waiting on the operation to complete. So MySQL is much better for that type of stuff. Anything you can offload to the database that the database can do for you is much better than making PHP responsible for it because MySQL is faster at working with its data. So it's better to do as many operations as you can in MySQL before you have to interfere with PHP. All right, so we have this entity relationship. Our step right now is to go and grab our posts. And the best part about this, there's no authentication part to this because it's all public, right? It's all public data. And I mean like non-authenticated public data. So we do need a link. That would be helpful. So let's go ahead and open up our folders. So we'll go through the usual way. We'll click on the W, click on the www directory, go to our COMP-1006 directory, open up our IDEs, and just drag our lesson 5 folder right directly into our IDE. And that will allow us to start off where we ended off. Just going to close off this folder. I don't like tons of stuff left open because it makes everything nice and slow. All right, so I have a posts. I have a post. Why do I have a post? Did we create a post? I asked you that. You guys said no. All lies to me. All right, let's go take a look and see what we have because maybe we're just duplicating content here. Holy smokes. When did we do that? I don't remember this. I believe you. I just don't remember it. Did we do this too? The show? What? It looks like we have everything though. Oh, I know what we're missing. Aha, we're missing pagination. Yes, let's do pagination. All right. Wow, and let's put a link in. I mean, I'll tell you right now, 3 things that you as an application developer need to make sure you do for any user. Users should know where they are, right? Users should know how to get where they want to go, hence putting a post link in the navigation, right? And then users should know how to get home. Those 3 things should always happen for a user, right? Anytime you're doing a user experience, you want to make sure they know where they are, how to get home, and how to get to anywhere else, okay? So we should have put a post link in. I don't know why I didn't. I must have forgot. Let's go to our browser and let's do that, or sorry, our IDE, and let's do that first. We'll go to partials and open up our main nav.php. And 1 second, I want to reload my CSS and JS. So I got my nice fancy synthwave. Oh, why is it not loading? That's weird. That's super weird. I don't get my actual nice style. Not that it's important. I mean, it's important enough for me to go look for it. That's what I want. There we go. That's nicer. All right, we're going to add a new link. I think we'll put the link. I can't remember where I did it in my notes. I forget. But we're going to put the link probably right before about. We'll do it right after about me, but between contact. So it'll be in between the about me and the contact page. So let's jump back over to here. We'll scroll down to where the about me is, and I'll zoom in a little bit as well. Actually, I'll edit my settings so that the font size is a bit bigger. Not that big. Let's go 24 points. Yeah, that's big. Nice. All right, so we're 24 points. I'm going to come down a little bit. So here's my about page, the home page, the contact link. So I'm going to about line 18 here, and I'm going to create a brand new LI. Like so. I'm going to create an A link. It's going to have a class of navlink. The href is going to be an inline echo statement that points to the base path / posts. And then the label we'll just call blog. And we'll also add a class to this LI as well. Don't worry, I will highlight everything I just did. There. There's our link to posts. Do you already have a link to posts? Okay.
It's not working. Something that I did last week for C# made my WAMP stop working. So
Oh,
I'm just watching.
that's your ASP server running in the background. Do you have VS Code closed?
I don't know.
Have you restarted your computer since your C# class? Yeah?
Where do you change the port? Because it said that my port 8 is not set to 1.
What? I don't know if it's the file. Is it the file or is her WAMP server up, Diego? Your WAMP server's not even up, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I've had a few students contact me, and I guess the ASP teacher
Yeah.
installed the web server and then won't respond to anybody's emails. Yeah. Which is fantastic. Okay, so here's the issue. Do you remember our server class? Remember when we talked about servers and how servers are on different ports? If 2 servers are occupying the same port, they create a conflict with each other, which means one will override the other, which is probably what's happening. ASP.NET is currently overriding the port that you need access to. So there's a few ways we can deal with that. Under Windows services, we can kill the ASP server, so it's just not on. We shut it off. So that's under Windows services. I don't know what it's called though. That's the only thing. So if you type in services in Cortana, yeah, hit enter to open that up. Inside this wonderful list right here, there's either something that says IIS. I believe it says IIS. Yeah, you can do a search as well, I think. Is it Control F to search? How do you search? Refresh. No? No search option. Just refresh and export lists and all tasks. Connect to another computer. Yep. You don't want to uninstall it. All right. Hold on, let me see. There's definitely a server in there running, and it's running as a service. Slide your machine on this back. There's also a Microsoft server. What is that? That's our G now. That's your internal graphics setting. That's your antivirus. Yeah, like you could always change the ports, but it's just it creates an issue when you change the ports. This is running fine, so you don't have any conflicts with that. Sure, restarting all services. Oh, there's your IS server. That's the thing that's running. This is the thing that's taking up the issue. Let's try that again. I think if you just close it, it just doesn't let you do anything. Yeah. Oh my God, you saved me. You were not found. Because I don't need this. Finally, yes. Okay. Post. Post. Oh, basically. Are you using Diego's monitor? Exactly. You know what to do? Exactly. Yeah. Oh, that's not a problem.
The same name, COMP-1006. I think it's the same name.
Oh yeah, no, exactly. So hold on, you can't just delete this. So what you have done is you put your reservation in your user project folder. Then you report. So yeah, because I know that it's not
I included it's like the same that.
Yeah, make sure you select the same
Trying to create a new database for the it was for some
was index for
you can ask him for the files, he was like packet. Like it's their file. But you don't have like up to date with the whole thing.
the last class.
Yeah. Okay, so you did everything but the
Okay, so this COMP-1006 sequel that's in there with the 7.
so you must like not everything. Yeah, I know. No, I'm just asking if you was doing everything.
You overwrote it.
I don't think I don't remember.
That was it.
Or
Okay.
maybe not. When the file is
Okay. Let's go to
I
here.
got the blog here.
Or or
I haven't typed it here. That I can log. Just create it, right? I don't know it. The last project, the last lesson. The last lesson. Oh, yes. Okay. But it's
yeah,
that
where's
part.
where's the sequel? Is that it? Where's the newest sequel I gave you guys? It's 1126, so that's probably it.
Because I did not prepare the class.
I think you overwrote some stuff inside the sequel file itself. So that sequel file now has
Yes, okay, I am lesson 5. Okay, let me change the lesson. Let me change the lesson. Okay. I am not like it. No, I think I put it down because, look what I have here.
which one is it? That's October 10th. That's today. You need to get it. Go download it from Blackboard and then okay.
No, there's something in the thing that's in Blackboard, no, but in other thing, yeah, there is.
Oh yeah, no response.
No response. Woo, thank you. No response. No response. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, no responsive. Now you're gonna get responsive anyways from Bootstrap, right? So if you use Bootstrap with material, oh, that's
Those are still should work on those things, but it's working features. And so if you're not adding this one here, just call it features. And that's it. Because I don't have this user, so it's not going to work. But I can register a new feature if I want, like, or but I don't have many things. Here's Spark. But the basics work. And this is the welcome page. That's it. But I am alone, okay? I should have. I should have. I'm not working on it. I'm doing all by myself. Because I'm doing all the time. PHP as well. PHP and C Sharp. My PhD is, oh, my not PhD, C Sharp is working finally, but it took me a lot of time. Like, you can't believe it, a lot, a lot. The interview is not tomorrow, it's on Wednesday. Yeah, for C Sharp. Yeah, exactly. That was my reaction. For C Sharp. It's for service, my service, but it's in Alice, it's not in Barrier. So I don't know. The interview is on Wednesday. It was gonna be here. It's gonna be on Georgia College, and I'll see. Yeah, and I'll see how it goes. But I have zero, 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 because basically everything that I learned is from YouTube, even my project. So you still need that to make it work. Yeah. Yeah, exactly, exactly. Let's see if we can open my project. That I don't know. So what's meant is I have one record. So here are my main. One post. Okay, my main. You need to do the same kind of thing. The way I would do it. Bar. Yeah, so I have to create a product, update, show, and remove. And I have a report that opens the XML file. Yeah, that's it. It's done. I finished. I just need to more or less that. You would wind up with a database like this. But it took time. A lot. So you're going to have a user, right? User is going to have cars, right? So you might have car 1, for example, car 2, car 3, however many cars they have, right? That points to so user can own multiple cars. Each car has multiple issues. So that kind of relationship. Does that make sense? Cool. All right, we better get back to it. We're going to wind up so far behind, we're going to lose out on this lesson. I understand everybody has project stuff they want to talk about, but we have to do this. This is the thing that needs to happen. And this might even answer some of those project questions. All right. Can you create your link now? Cool. I'm embarrassed to say this, but I don't actually know your name. Say it again. Samantha? Oh, okay, cool. Like Samantha, but with a D. Without
Oh, Samantha.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Cool. Nice to meet you.
You say differently here. There are accents. The way I say I don't have this sad, like it's eight.
Right.
It's sad.
So,
Anyways, Samantha.
do you go by Sam?
Yeah.
Yeah? Okay. Sam it is. All right. Did everybody get their nav link, or is anybody still typing that code out? We're good? Yep. All right. I'm going to believe you. So if we go back to our browser and we hit Control R, we now have our blog. Yay, our blog. Okay, so right now we have multiple blogs on the page. And there's a couple of reasons why that's not good. One, users get bored very fast. No user is going to read each and every single one of these titles to find what they're looking for. They only really care about the most recent blogs, right? So what's a good idea to make sure that this page loads quickly is by only bringing in, say, maybe 10 blogs at a time. And the way we can do that is we can take advantage of something that's built into MySQL, which is called limit and offset. So what we can do is we can actually say to MySQL, only give me back 10 records starting at record blah, and it will only return back those 10 records. We can actually use that to create a small algorithm to create something called pagination. Pagination is where we can actually click on a page to go to a new page that contains 10 new blogs, or click the next button to just go to the next page, or click the previous button to go back a page, right? So that's all in pagination. So we're going to do that now. We're going to create some pagination. Oops, that's not what I want. Still getting used to the gesture controls inside Windows. We need pagination. Pagination, showing a single post, did that. Displaying our comments, we did that. We bypassed displaying full comments, we're into pagination. Cool. So let's go back to our IDEs. Nope, not PowerShell. Our IDEs, and we're going to open up posts index.php, this page here. And we're going to write our pagination. So right now we have our include script here with our connection. We need to set, we're actually going to modify this select statement a little bit, but before we do that, we need to set some values. So I'm going to write pagination settings. So these are our settings for our pagination. So my first setting is going to be the number of posts that I want to display on the page. And you can choose however many you feel like having. I want 10. So I'm going to create a variable called num of posts and make it equal to 10. That variable is going to get used in a few different places, so it's a good idea to keep track of it. Because we can set it there and just have it cascade down, basically. The next thing I want to know is what page I'm currently on, right? So if I've moved to page 2, I want to know that I'm on page 2. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use a query parameter in order to keep track of the pages that I'm on. And that'll obviously be accessible through the get superglobal. We'll store it in a variable called current page, and that's going to be equal to either get page, or it's just going to start at page 1. So it'll be either whatever page they've passed in the query parameter, or just default to page 1. What's up, Sam? Shaking her head. No? All right. We need to also calculate an offset, right? So when we go to page 1, that's fine. We're just going to pull the first 10 blog posts straight off the database, right? And review whatever 10 posts those are. However, when we go to page 2, we need to start 10 posts in, right? We don't want to start on 0 each time, otherwise we'll just be showing the same set. So we need to offset where we actually start in our database. Now, one of the classes said you guys did this in your SQL class already, that you guys did limit with offset and the limit amount. So this should seem familiar, hopefully. So in order to do the offset, we need to calculate what the offset's going to be. So basically the offset will be the number of posts multiplied by, and then we have to do brackets because we're going to perform a subtraction, but it'll be the current page minus 1. That was a loud ding. I don't even know where my phone is. All right, so just to walk you through again, number of posts is the number of posts we're going to display on the page. Current page is a value we're either going to get from the query parameters in our URL, or we're going to default to page 1. Offset is a calculation that basically takes the number of posts on the page and multiplies it by the current page we're on. So the first time that we run, what will be the value of offset? Exactly. And then the next time we run? Yeah, exactly. You got it spot on, 10. And the next time will be 20, then 30, then 40, then 50, so on and so forth. Yeah, exactly. Well, it's a starting point in the database where we want to start grabbing those posts, right? And the thing is, too, is you don't have to worry about IDs because it doesn't use the IDs in order to pull back. It literally treats the whole record set as an array and grabs it starting from that point in the record set. So it's whatever you pull back your record set as. Now, in order to make this work, we have to actually modify our select statement to also incorporate our limit. So the good news is it just actually comes after this line here. So still inside this quote, though, we're going to say limit, and we're going to use some nice string interpolation here. We're going to pass the offset, and then comma, $num of posts. So limit is a MySQL function, and offset is the first number it takes, number of posts is the next number it takes. However, you can give limit one argument. If you give it one argument, it will just return back that number of whatever records you've requested. If you give it 2, then it treats the first number as an offset. Now we already have our posts in here. The post equals con query SQL fetch all. So once you're done writing the limit, you can go back to your browser, hit refresh, and you should only see 10 posts in the browser. You have a MySQL error? Make sure that this, line 9, where you wrote num of posts, and where you're using num of posts in the 2 other locations matches. So you should have num of posts equals 10. You have an error, Sam? Uncaught PDO exception. You have an error in your syntax. MariaDB server version for the right. Use select star from post. Oh yeah, it's command tab, isn't it? Select star post ID as ID from posts. Join users on post user ID equals to user's ID. Limit offset. Oh, that needs to be a $, yeah. Got it? There you go. Okay, I'm just going to verify that mine is actually displaying the 10 posts. And sure enough, it is. Do you need starter files, Sam?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Because I have the page, but it's just not working.
Yep, no worries. I'll give you the starter files. Just a minute. I didn't actually create a shortcut link to this yet. Do you have Slack, or do you need me to put it up onto Blackboard? Okay. Just a little easier to throw it into Slack. So I will put it under our channel of COMP-1006 F19. And so when you extract it, just take those folders that are inside there in files and replace yours with them. Yeah. No problem. Okay, just while Sam's getting that ready and a few people have some issues, why don't we take a 10-minute break, and then we'll regroup after the 10 minutes and finish off pagination. I think it makes more sense. All right. Says it's recording. I'm going to believe it. Okay, so we have our number of posts per page, our current page that we're on, and the number of posts based on the current minus page. Now we can test this. We should see right now, if we refresh our page, we should see only 10 posts. But also what we can do, I wish this thing would just stop. Also what we can do is we can actually provide the question mark page equals and change the page number, and we'll see a different page show up to 5 pages, because that's I have 50 posts. But obviously that's not a very fun, easy tactic. It would be much easier if we had some sort of navigation, right? So we're going to build a navigation element that's going to allow us to shift from page to page. But there's going to be some more steps to our algorithm, though, in order to make that work. So one thing we need, so we've got our query where we've done our posts. Just after that, we're going to write build our navigation. So this is where we're going to build our navigation. So the first thing I want to do is get the number of posts in our database entirely. So I'm going to create a variable called post count, and I'm going to make it equal to con query, and I'm just going to write the SQL right inside because it's just simple. It's just select star from posts, not pots, posts. And then we're going to call a function called row count. What row count will do is row count will tell you the number of rows in the database without returning all of the rows. So nice and fast. With that information and the number of posts that we want per page, we can perform a calculation to figure out how many pages we're going to have altogether. So num of pages equals, and I'm going to round the number, rounded. Nope, I am not going to round the number. I'm going to seal the number. I don't know why I wrote round. That's really stupid. Post count divided by the number of posts per page, right? So these two lines is what you're writing right now. Anybody know what seal does? Okay, do you know what round does? What does round do? Yep. And what if it's 34.5? Cool. So round takes the halfway point. So if it ends in 0.5, it will go up. Anything less than 0.5 will go down to an absolute number. Seal goes up always. So if it's 34.1, it becomes 35. If it's 34.4, it still becomes 35. Floor is the opposite to that. Floor always goes down. So if it's 34.9, it's 34. So those are the three that you have. You have round, seal, and floor. There's also abs, which is absolute, which will always take any negative number and turn it into a whole real number, so like an absolute number. It'll also truncate any decimals. You will get a full integer back. That's another one. So we're going to use seal because when we take post count and we divide by the number of posts, it's going to spit back a decimal place, right? Because it's not exactly even. It's not necessarily divisible. For example, the number of post count we have are 50. The number of posts we might have, the post count is 50, but the number of posts per page might be something like 8. So, well, 8 doesn't go into 50 perfectly, right? It's going to return back decimals. So we want to seal so that we can guarantee to get those extra few posts that we still need on the last page. Not a big deal when we're dividing evenly right now because actually we have 10 posts. So we have 50 posts and 10 per page, which divides evenly, and we get 5 pages. Becomes an issue when we start creating new posts, though, because now they're not dividing properly, right? Okay, so that's the calculations we need for our navigation element. Let's go make our navigation element. So we're going to scroll to the bottom of the page, all the way to the very bottom. Right after this closing div down here, I'm going to hit enter a couple of times. I'm going to put an HR tag in. And then I'm going to show you something neat. If you are using like VS Code, this is super easy. If you're not, then sorry, sucks to be you. But if you're using VS Code, you can do things like this, where you go nav, and then if you have the class name, you can do dot and the name of the class, so mt-5, and then hit tab, and it will autofill it with nav class blah. Makes it super easy to type HTML nice and quickly. This one is going to, no it is not, because I don't care about accessibility right now. There we go. Oh, still getting used to this keyboard. All right, so next we're going to have ul dot pagination dot justify content center tab, and that'll fill it all out. I'm going to put a couple of spaces here and put my cursor right dead center of the UL. We're going to create the links to each of the pages first, then we'll create the next and previous buttons after. So the pages to the links will look like so. li.page-item tab. So that'll create our li tag. Inside our li tag, we're going to have an a tag. And it's going to point to page equals. Don't worry, we're going to fill all this with some nice, wonderful, what's that language we're working in? PHP. Page-link. I've been in JavaScript mode all day long today, coding out a graph in Canvas and doing video game math I did in university today because I had to calculate we're building a graph and it's plotting these points on the graph, and then we have a Goldilocks line through, and my boss says, well, I want to know, when a dot is in this quadrant and when it's close to the line. And I'm like, great, so that's magnitude, dot matrix, or dot product, all those type of calculations have to be done, right? Plus you're building that intersection into the line. I hate that math. I hate linear algebra more than you could possibly know. So that's what I was doing all day long. It's linear algebra. All right. So now we need to wrap this wonderful mess with a for loop. So on the outside of this li, I'm going to write a PHP tag here. I'm going to tab this in, and then I'm going to write a open and close PHP tag at the bottom. Taking nice tiny baby steps today. In the first one, we're going to write a for loop. So it's going to be for with a set of parentheses and a colon. And then in the bottom one, we'll write end for. I really like these inline statements. I think they're kind of neat. But I also like the fact because before PHP 7, actually before PHP 5, you couldn't do this like this where you had a colon terminator and then end for further on. You actually had to use the curly braces. So you'd wind up with a curly brace up here and then it would close, and then some curly brace down here, and you would totally forget what the other curly brace was for. And you would wind up forgetting them and things wouldn't close properly and you were trying to match it all up. At least this, you know what it's for because it tells you what it's for. It's for a for loop, right? And you just got to go find the opening parent for loop. So inside here, just like any for loop you have ever written, the instantiated variable, that's not where we're writing. Let's try it in the for loop here. Instantiated variable, so equals whatever number you want to start with. We're going to start with 1. The second expression is your comparison. So we're going to say if I is less than or equal to the num of pages, then we want to increment I. So I++. Now that we have I, we can go through and start littering I everywhere. So under the li tag, we're going to add another class in here. Actually, no, we're not. We're going to take it nice and slow. In our anchor link, we need to create a link to our I tag, or to our page number. So this will be I like that. That creates our dynamic page number. Bye, boys. They're going this way. The Russians think I'm crazy. All right. Next, we're going to output the I between the anchor links. And that gives us links. We have links. We'll have 5 of them when we start, and then as we create blog posts, we'll have more.
When you create step by step, it's easy to understand. When you read everything already done, you don't understand anything.
Which one did I do this time?
No, I was there. I understood what you said.
Yeah?
But
Okay.
when I was reading the files from the previous class, even though I was here paying attention, I was like, what is this together? What
Right.
is this doing? So I had to break it into pieces to understand.
There's some errors in my written lessons as well that you can't rely on the written lessons, unfortunately. There's some errors in there.
No, but it's okay. The code was working. It's just like, okay, how do we read that? We understand.
And that, you know what, that brings up,
So complicated.
yeah, that brings up a good point. Writing readable code is super, super important. So that's one reason why I love Ruby over PHP, because Ruby reads like English. It reads perfectly. Like, for example, if I want to, what's a good example? Like, for example, if I want to iterate through something, right, I would say this thing dot each. So my array dot each. That makes sense to me. That makes perfect sense. It's like each of the elements in my array dot each, do this. That's literally the command in Ruby. And because Ruby is so human readable, it doesn't take long to pick it up. It takes a while to master, but it doesn't take long to pick it up. I would argue it's almost easier than PHP. The issue with Ruby, though, and the reason why the college doesn't want to teach it, it's not one of the most popular languages. It's still sitting in about 6th to 7th place in popularity. It's used mostly by companies that are like startups and stuff like that, right? JavaScript is definitely more popular now, so more people are going into JavaScript. PHP takes up 80% of the web, so definitely need to learn PHP. If you want to get a job, you need to at least know PHP. And then the other thing is the environment. Ruby is the biggest pain in the ass to install on a Windows machine. If you have a Mac or a Linux, perfect. Windows, it's like so nasty to try to install on a Linux box or on a Windows machine. Just too much. All right, so this is going to iterate over I, the number of pages that we have, and it's going to create a new LI and add a link. The link is just going to be a query parameter, right, that points to our I page. And we're going to give it a class page link, and the link itself is just going to be a number. The pagination, justify content center, page item, and page link all come from Bootstrap. That's what Bootstrap uses to make, dun, 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 drum roll please, refresh, this. Bootstrap makes this for us. Now we have our handy little thing here. There's page 6, there's page 5, 4, 3, 2, did you say stop it? 1. The only problem is, though, is we can break this, eh? That's the one bad side. We can actually go to -1, and then everything explodes. So we have to be careful there. All right. How'd we do, Sam? Did we get there? I'll show the code again. I'll let you double check the code. So one of the things we have going on right now with our links is there's no styling. And you remember how I told you it's important to let a user know where they are, right? One of the ways we do that is by color coding the link so that they know where they are. So when they're using the pagination, that is a good time to tell them what page they are currently at. So we can color the link so that it shows them that they're on page 1. Then we can say when they click on page 2, that one's now active, and we can color code it so it's active, right? Bootstrap already does that for us, which makes life a lot easier. However, we have to perform a little bit of logic to know which page to color code. So we're going to use something called a ternary. Have you guys used ternaries? Have you used a ternary before? Ternaries are kind of neat. So it's like an if-else, but wrapped into one line. Yeah. And it uses the ternary operation, which is a question mark, a colon sign. And basically the way it works is your condition goes on the left side of the question mark. Then on the right side is your true, then a colon, and then your false. And that's what it does. Did you find it? In Brazil, in Rio de Janeiro, the massive statue, how big is it? Yeah, I've been there.
Yeah, it's beautiful. It's very beautiful, but very dangerous.
The statue's dangerous?
No, who is there is dangerous.
Oh, really? Who is there is danger. I like that.
People there, but
It's a lot of
if you
crime.
go with a local, it's kind of okay, but I would still say go without your jewelry, clothes, cell phones.
Right.
It's like that.
Just go naked.
I wouldn't say naked, but it's close to the beach. You could
Right.
less.
Just wear shorts.
Yeah.
handles and go.
Something like that. Like when there are things at the whole place. It's just dangerous. And there's a lot of change, like between local traffickers, drug dealers,
Oh, okay.
and the police. So you might be in crossfire. I wouldn't say that,
Right.
but it's this bad.
Just lots of crime. Where's the best place to go in Brazil if you're going to go anywhere that's safe and quiet?
Northeast.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Nice and pretty and
Nice
quiet.
and pretty, quiet. Yeah.
Cool. I'll keep that in mind.
And it's cheaper because it's closer to Canada than Hill, which is in South.
Oh, okay, right. That would make sense. Yeah.
Because we are really big in territory.
Yes. Yeah.
I know I haven't found it. Sorry.
Okay, so is your code the exact same as mine?
Yeah.
Okay, so let's take a look at the code that we wrote at the top, because maybe that's where the issue is. So we wrote these two lines here. Oh, you're getting it in a vertical position? Oh, so then that's not the issue at all then. You're getting a bootstrap issue. So on nav, do you have the class MT-5?
Yeah.
Okay. On the UL, do you have the class Pagination space?
No, I have not.
That's why. This justify content center is what's doing, putting them in line.
Yeah. It's just the
There you go.
The dot.
Yes. So dots are selectors, right? So when we're in CSS, we use dot. When we're in JavaScript, as you guys will learn next semester, you use dot in order to select by the class. But when you're writing the class out, no dots. All right, so we've got all that. We've got everything in place. Now we're going to write a little bit of chunky, kind of clunky PHP. And I apologize, but unfortunately, that's the only way for us to do this. So let's just start off with our inline echo statement first, because that's the easiest one to write. There's my inline echo statement right inside the class quotes. Make sure you put a space between it and page item, though, because otherwise when it echoes out, it'll just bunt right up against the side of page item. You don't want that. Do you think Canadians sound like Americans? Like, is our accent very similar to what you hear on TV?
I think so.
Yeah. I was just curious because Americans make fun of us, right? So
Yeah, but I don't think it's fair.
they think we sound like Newfoundlanders because they're like, "Oh, hey, bye, how about that there?" We don't sound like that at all. Yeah, Newfoundlanders sound like that. If you go to Newfoundland, they're like, "Hey, bye, how you doing? Hey, bye." No idea what they're saying. All right, so in this, we're going to write a ternary statement. Ternaries are kind of an interesting structure because I love ternaries, and they're available in almost every programming language ever, right? Including Java, okay? Ternary operator looks like this. That's the ternary operator, okay? The idea is you have your condition on this side of the question mark. Whatever you're going to do, if it's true, happens on this side. Whatever you're going to do is false, happens on this side. It's like an inline if-else statement is basically what it is. So that's really cool. I like to write mine with the parentheses. You don't have to. I just find it looks cleaner, right? It makes it a little easier to understand. So I always base mine like this. I always do that. Whenever I'm about to write my ternary, I write the three pieces I need. So the first piece we're going to write is the condition itself. So inside the set of parentheses, we're going to say is $i equal to current page, and we're going to use the loose the loose equals sign, which is just the double equals, not the triple equals. And the reason we're doing that is because I will be an integer, but current page, even though it's a number, will be a string. So because of that, we can't do a strictness, because what will happen is it will compare the data type as well as the value, and it will blow up and they won't be equal to each other. We could cast it. That is another option. If you wanted to cast it, you can write another equal sign, and then just before current page, write int in a set of parentheses, and that will cast current age into an integer. But I don't find that very clear, and when you're learning PHP, it can be a little confusing. All right. On the right-hand side of the question mark is our true statement. So this is the thing we want to happen if we're true. So we're going to return active. And that's literally just the word active, right? It's just a string. And then on the right-hand side of the colon, this is where we put our false. We're going to put null. So basically how this reads is, if I is equal to the current page, then set the class as active. Otherwise, set null, which means there won't be any text put out whatsoever. Go ahead and save that. And don't use your mouse. Hold down Alt, hit Tab, go to your browser. Get used to keyboard shortcuts. They will make your life so much better. I want to refresh the page. I'm not going to click the thing. I'm going to hit Control and R, which will refresh the page. And if you scroll down to the pagination, the number 1 should be blue. And if you want to see what happened with the PHP, right-click on it and choose Inspect. And you'll see that it says, if I zoom in a lot, that's a little much. Now I can't move. Okay, here we go. You'll see that we have page dash item and active, right? Now that is being applied, that piece of PHP is being applied to every single link we have. But if we look at the other links, you'll notice that they don't have active next to them. Only the one that we're currently on has active. However, if I click page 2, we can see that active has been removed from this one, and now it is on the next one. Yeah. You can also see that even though we put null in, we have a little space here because we put the space in there in order to separate them. The HTML doesn't care though, so it ignores it. So we should be fine. It shouldn't matter. But now as we click each page, they change color. I have 6 pages because I've added blogs and other classes. All right, next step. It would be really nice to have a next button and a previous button. Yes, sir. So if that's the case, you quoted null. Did you put null in quotes? Yeah. Null is a keyword in PHP that basically means nothing, nada. Yeah. All right, so we're going to write 2 more pieces. We're going to write a previous button and a next button. And then we're probably going to call it a night, to be honest with you. All right, so let's do this together. So we do li dot page dash item tab. We are going to write one of these buttons and then copy and paste it because the second button is almost exactly the same. I'm going to hit enter. And again, we're just going to take this as steps. I'm going to hit A tab. Give this thing a class of page dash link. I'm going to make the A ref equal to question mark page equals. And the label for this one will be previous. Or you can use prev, like P-R-E-V. Sometimes you see that as well. Totally up to you. Do you find that you get hung up on the HTML at all? Like, does the HTML ever catch you up? Catch you up is a bad word. Do you find that the HTML sometimes makes it difficult because you forget the HTML? It is the easiest part? Okay. I've always wondered that if the HTML sometimes causes more issue. So do you think it's a good thing to type the HTML, or do you think given a template you're fine? You would rather just have it given to you? Okay. That's what I was hoping you'd say. Because next semester, because it takes so long, right? The HTML literally slows the class down, whereas you want to progress pretty quickly, right? HTML I can see that makes sense to write, which I wish I had did with you guys in the beginning, is stop quoting everything I say, sorry. HTML that I wish we did write was the forms, because I think understanding that the HTML form has to be written in a certain way for it to work with PHP was definitely confusing for some people. Because I've had a few comments back that they didn't realize that the name field was necessary. Yeah, stuff like that. Because it can kind of throw you off. Okay, so right now all this is raw HTML. We haven't written any actual PHP in that statement. If we want, we can actually go see it. So we can just save, Control R, and now we can see our little previous button in front of our one. Notice that Bootstrap's really cool. It actually squared off the one and then rounded the corners of previous. So it's still got that kind of pill-shaped look to it, right? All right, so a couple of things we want to do. One, we need to put in the logic for the previous button so that it actually goes to the previous page. So let's do that now. So we have question mark page equals. The logic for this, pretty simple. We're literally just going to say current page, so whatever page we're currently on, and I want to go to the previous page, so what do you think I'm going to do? Exactly, -1. And then that will go back a page. Oh, you're going to find out in 2 seconds, Terry. We're going to go back to the browser, and we're going to click the previous button. You'll see it blow up. Yeah. Yeah. And the reason why is because the page doesn't exist, can't find it, so it explodes. Now, ideally, we don't want that to happen to our users. We could write logic to stop that from happening so that never occurs, but instead all we're going to do is disable the button. So if it doesn't work out, we'll disable the button. But we'll do that second. So if I go to my browser, refresh, even though I'm using all the links now, and I click previous, and big explosion, you have an error in MariaDB, even though I'm not using MariaDB. I'll go back. Let's go fix that. So what we want to do is disable it. And the way we're going to disable it is just like we wrote the ternary down here, we're going to write another ternary in here. And this ternary this time, the condition is going to be, is the current page equal to 1? So am I on the first page, right? If that's the case, my true condition is going to be disabled as a string, otherwise null. So if I'm on page 1, I want you to set the class disabled. And what Bootstrap will actually do is disable the button entirely so it can't be clicked.
So disable and active are linked to Bootstrap. It's not only strings, they are actually functions. Not functions, but they are set up on Bootstrap.
Yeah, Bootstrap has it as a class setting underneath its library, under its framework. We could add disable to the anchor link if we wanted to, which would actually disable the anchor link itself. However, whenever you're using a framework, play the game of the framework, which basically means do what the framework says to do. Don't try to do other things. You'll break it, right? It will make your life a lot less stressful if you just do what the framework says to do. And that's true not only just with something as simple as Bootstrap, but also if you get into like programming frameworks like model view controller systems or anything like that, or when you guys go out on co-op, I'm sure you'll wind up, depending on where you're co-oping, you'll probably wind up in a framework. Read about the framework. Don't try to wing it. Go see if the framework does it already, and if it does, do what the framework says to do. It'll make your life so much easier than trying to work against the framework, right? It's an important step. So same thing here. We could add disabled to the anchor link, which is a standard attribute for any type of HTML. However, Bootstrap wants you to use disabled this way, and I can't remember the reasoning, but they have a reason why that they would prefer you to do it that way. If you go to your browser now, so Alt-Tab, Control-R, you'll notice that you can't click it. It's become disabled. So now we can't go back one more page. We are landlocked where we are. So the good news is because we wrote all of that, we can actually copy this li tag. So copy your entire previous li tag, hit Control-C, come down to just below the N4, and hit Control-V and paste it in place. And then we can fix some of the stuff that we need to fix. So I'm actually going to leave that for you because we're going to be done after this step. So I'm going to leave that for you. And yeah, go for it. See what logic you need to change to make that go to the next page and also disable when it's on the last page. Should be easy. Not going to give you any hints. What's that? Not going to give you any hints. Just go for it. You can't break anything. You're not going to break your computer. Just give it a go. If it works, yay! It is potentially possible we could wind up with 3 different solutions. Totally. Once you have it done, let me know and I'll come and take a look. Are you done, Terry? All right. All right, so we can go to can't click the next button. 4. Good job. And one should store. Nice. Yep. Click on 5. Click on 5. Show me your code.
Sorry, what did you ask for? To the next?
Yeah.
Yeah, so make that logic work for next. Yeah. Okay, so you have page item, you need space. That's why. What's happening is this is actually flooding up right against that.
Maybe you don't have all this.
What did you do?
See, it's now on 4. And I press it goes to 5, but it didn't show here.
I don't know what you did actually. Did you place on the right place?
No.
Pagination.
Because mine appears right here.
Yeah, it's broken. So
Yeah, it is. No, it's not. Actually, it's not. Because if I'm on 5, okay, disabled, but it's disabled
for everyone.
Oh.
I have no idea why you're in. Check current page and make sure that this condition is true. So what's happening is I think you're hitting that current condition each time. For some reason, it's always 1, but it shouldn't be. You have to wrap it into a PHP sentence. Yeah. And then just do it like that. And just go for current page. Because what we want to do is make sure that current page is page 2. So you're getting an integer. Let's see. You're getting integer 1. You're always getting integer 1. So what that tells me, your condition is wrong up here. Okay. I bet you each time this happens, I bet you this is always wrong. String 1, 2. So that time it's 2. But down here you're getting 1. So for some reason, current page is getting changed from here to here. Oh, that's why. That's why. You're casting it to 1. Another equal sign there, sorry.
Okay, I mean, I can get this as well.
Alright, no problem. Did you get it to work? Yeah, you're definitely missing 5. What happens if you go, okay, so you see you have a percentage 20 there? You have space in a weird spot. So your link down here, you probably have a space between your equals and here. Yeah, get rid of that space because it will throw it off. It's still saying 5? But you're not on that page. Are you doing current page -1? For this one, should be +1. Yeah. What about up there? You're doing -1? Yeah. So this should be generating, did you start on 1? And it's less than or equal to? That's why. That's why you're missing your other page. Less than or equal to. Did you get it, Diego? No? What do you say? Which one works? Yeah. It shouldn't be. It shouldn't be taking you back to page 0. So it should disable once you hit page 1. So this one should be current page is equal to 1. Then current page -1. So this should disable if you're on page 1. So if it's not working, then for some reason current page does not have the correct value in it. So bar dump current page so that you can see what the value is.
What if we are having like too many pages and we just want to show beginning 3-4 pages and the last ones?
Like
Some websites
dot kind of thing. So the way you would do that is you would have to figure out, just like we did with posts, right? You only want to show 10 posts, right? You have to do the same thing with pages. You have to basically say, I only want to show 4 pages, and then have dots to point to the rest of the pages. So then you would have to basically say, if there's more than 4, only show 4. But you'd also have to keep track of where you're going to start your page displays as well, because now you got to create an offset for that. So that if you're on page 2, you're showing 2, 3, 4, 5. If you're on page 3, you're showing 3, 4, 5, 6, right? So you need to take track of that too. Keep track of that. It's a little bit of a logic problem. You have all the stuff you need to be able to build it if you wanted to. It's not going to affect your query. I'll say that. Like your actual query has nothing to do with it. It's all just PHP logic at that point. Did you figure it out? No? All right, I'm going to do this statement, this bottom one. So, Terry, you were done first. Why don't you walk me through it? What do I do with this? That's right. Because the reason why we're doing that is the number of pages will be the last page that we need to have, right? So if current page is currently equal to number of pages, then that's all of the pages. All right, cool. And then what do we need to do with this wonderful statement? That's right, current page plus 1. So now, oh, we need one more change, don't we? Let's call it next. There we go. So I have previous and I have next. I'm going to go to page 6. And notice I can't click next now. If I go to page 5, 4, everything's good. Hit page 1, and previous is disabled. So there we go. We have pagination for all of our pages. Now, just before you guys actually run out, because I know it's nice and early, I want to talk about a couple of things because you definitely need to do this. There is this last lesson super important to watch. I am not modifying the test. You need to watch this video so that you know how to do it. At the end of the day, you already know how to create, read, update, and delete a resource because you did it with users. Okay? But this, I recommend watching because it will help you reinforce. There will be no, and I repeat this, no parent-child relationship CRUD on the final exam. Okay? I promise that. But there will be CRUD, but it'll be for a singular resource. There'll be no authentication, no logins. We won't be registering users. I will give you a resource. You will create the CRUD for that resource. I will pre-populate your HTML for you. You'll have all the HTML you need. The only thing you will likely have to do is create a form, and then you'll have to create the create, read, update, edit, and delete pages. Okay? You'll have 3 hours to do it. There's no multiple choice questions, no practical, or no theory based, just practical. And you'll be allowed to work in groups of up to 4 people. So no reason that not every single person in this program should get close to 100% because it's super easy, right? So simple. Literally the easiest language I've ever touched. The only thing easier than PHP is weaving baskets. All right, so you have 3 hours. That being said, study. I cannot stress enough study. I have so many people that are like, open book, open internet, get to work in a group, got this thing in the bag. No, you don't. I've had 10% of every class, every semester fail, guaranteed. That midterm, not necessarily the whole program. I've had people fail the program, but usually 10% of the people fail the practical because they don't study. They just think that it'll be easy. It's not. Make sure you study. So because the problem is you don't have time to research, really. You kind of need to know a good chunk of it going in, or at least where to find the information. Okay? So make sure you study. That's basically it. So there's that there, and then underneath weekly learning, you'll see the R lesson, last lesson. If you click on it, this is the last lesson starter files. So start from there, download those, and then watch the video. I actually walk you through downloading them anyways. But start there, download the files, and you'll know you have it correct when it looks a little bit like this. You'll have a post management. You'll be able to create a new post. You'll have a nice WYSIWYG editor put into place. Don't worry, I'll walk you through what this is, where it comes from. It's called Summer Note. It's really, really nice. It's free as well. I walk you through creating that. I walk you through reading a thing and creating a new comment on it. All of that is in that lesson. And it's an hour and a half, I think. It's not even that long. Lesson videos. An hour and 40 minutes.
All right, so
not that long at all.
a bit of a different change up here.
Nice and quick. Of course, I talk quick, though. So, any questions? Only practical.
Okay. And you said you're gonna make available the HTML for HTML?
Yes. All the HTML for the practical will be given to you.
So we are gonna have a starting file for.
Yeah, you'll have a starting file. Everybody will have a different one, though. Each group will have a different one. Yeah. It doesn't matter. Don't rely on your friends. It doesn't work out. Yeah, everybody will have a different type of CRUD. I mean, CRUD's CRUD. CRUD is CRUD is CRUD is CRUD. Two groups could definitely figure it out between the two of them on what CRUD is. It's called an industry test. The idea is just like if I was to take you to your first day on the job and sit you down in a seat and there's 15 people around you, what do? How do you solve the problem, right? Because you can't rely on a person to do the whole thing for you because they need to do their own part as well. So to a certain extent, you have to be able to manage it yourself. Now you're in a group of 4 and you're only handing in 1, right? And you're going to hand me in a README that basically says the members of your group. But that being said, though, like everybody should contribute to that project. There should be no reason why you can't. Cool? And I build them so that one person can do it within the time period. So, actually, I find that 4 people tend to, it causes more problems than it's saved, I would say.
To be honest, yeah. It's super hard to work on yourself. Imagine trying to explain. Sometimes the other doesn't know.
Yeah.
It's not their fault. It's not easy.
Or you get an ego, which we've had a few of those. I've had students in other classes. Just the guy's got a big ego, and that works against them bad. Yep. No CRUD and yeah, how to make the form.
The form is like the fields and columns. This is what you mean by form?
No, I mean HTML form. I'll provide you your database.
Like a table.
Yeah. No, a form. An HTML form. Yeah. I will provide you your database table to connect to and so on and so forth. Probably what I'll do is I'll just give you a chunk of SQL. You'll import it into the COMP-1006 so you can use the same connection script. Everything will be the same, basically.
That would be easier.
Yeah.
Thank you for doing that. I need to set up a new database. I hope we have no updates on starting files, not from you, from other classes, because that always messed up.
If your ASP.NET breaks your computer, don't let her leave the class before she fixes the problem.
I tried, but the problem is last class,